Hello students, this is Dr. Faizan Mirza. In this video, I'll be discussing with you the photomicrographs and the slides that they give you from the gas exchange system, because there is quite a bit of confusion when it comes to grayscale images and the labels, like which part is the tubule or the duct of the gas exchange system, be it the trachea, the bronchi, the bronchioles, or the alveoli, and which one is the blood vessel, how the mucus gland looks like, what's a goblet cell, what are ciliated epithelium, what kind of structures these are, and how to label them and identify them. So I'll be just switching between my lectures notes as well as the past paper questions. So this is October, November 2022, variant 22. So let's just first recall what we have discussed in the gas exchange system. We know that your gas exchange system includes your trachea, bronchus, terminal bronchiole, respiratory bronchiole, alveolar duct, and the alveoli. Cartilage is present in the first two, which means the trachea and bronchus have cartilage. The both of them have the goblet cells as well. And when it comes to smooth muscle, the first three have smooth muscles: trachea, bronchus, and terminal bronchiole. When it comes to cilia, all these structures have cilia, which means the trachea, bronchus, terminal bronchiole, respiratory bronchiole. In respiratory bronchiole, there are very few cilia. When it comes to alveolar duct and the alveoli, they both are the site of the gas exchange system, and they do not have any of these structures. No cartilage, no goblet cell, no smooth muscles. Further, you can see that the cartilage is absent. Cartilage is absent, and in your structures of terminal bronchioles, as well as the respiratory bronchiole, alveolar duct, and the goblet cells are also absent in the same way. So just keeping these things in mind, let's go to the structure of how the ciliated epithelium looks like. These are elongated cells, and these elongated cells have cilia at one end, and these are called ciliated epithelium. So the cilia will always be facing the lumen, and this structure is the mucus present in the goblet cell. The goblet cell is something like of a goblet. Goblet is like a wine glass. So this structure is called as the goblet cell. The goblet cell is a part of the ciliated epithelium, and it will lack cilia at the top. So the mucus comes out, it spreads onto the surface, and the cilia movement then ensures that the mucus starts to travel in one direction. Whereas the mucus gland will be present somewhere below in this structure, somewhere below. It will never be on the surface of the respiratory structure that we are seeing. When we are discussing a trachea, we know in trachea there is a cartilage present, incomplete ring of cartilage, and there is a thick cartilage there. When we discuss the bronchus, so this diagram shown to you is of a bronchus. The bronchus will always have an unfolded internal lining. There will be no fold there, and there will be cartilages present all around, and the cartilage will be there, and the smooth muscle will be present as well, but there will be no extensive folding in the bronchus. So that's how you identify the bronchus. In this structure, you can see these tiny structures at the back. All these structures are your alveoli. These are all your alveoli, because this diagram is that just this photograph is magnified at 8 times. So the bronchus looks this wide. So the alveoli looks very narrow or very tiny structures. All of these are alveoli. Now these large structures are the cross section of the three blood vessels that you can see. In the blood vessel, you will never see cartilage. These thick cartilage structures will never be present in a blood vessel. The blood vessel lining will have collagen, it will have the endothelial cells, the tunica externa, media interna that we have discussed in the blood vessel, which you are very familiar, but the cartilage will never be there in a blood vessel. Plus, in the blood vessel, you may see blood as well. You may see the deposits of red blood cells present there. So this is something that you recall when you see a bronchiole. This is what a bronchiole will look like. A bronchiole will be folded. It will always have these folds, and these folded structure will be the ciliated epithelium, in which the epithelial lining is there. And surrounding the ciliated epithelium, there will be a ring of smooth muscle. This is the ring of the smooth muscle present around the bronchioles. This allows the bronchiole to constrict or dilate to allow more or less air to go into the alveoli accordingly. And since this is the more magnified diagram, this is magnified at 300 times the photomicrograph, you can see the surrounding alveoli are pretty large. So these are all the alveoli that you can see in the surroundings. So keeping this description in mind, let's come to the question. So the question here actually tells you, this question I've taken from October, November 22, reading 22. This question tells you about the where features are provided to you, a table is provided to you, and where gestation system and what kind of goblet cell epithelium is there. They are asking goblet cells produce mucus, which is important in maintaining the health of the airway. The smallest of bronchioles closest to the alveoli are known as the respiratory bronchioles. So just to explain about the respiratory bronchioles, do not have any goblet cell. Why they do not have any goblet cell? Because the respiratory bronchioles have a narrow lumen. Presence of mucus would decrease the available passageway for the gas entering or leaving the alveoli. Very few cilia are there, so moving mucus up the respiratory tract would be difficult. This is something that we already have discussed here, that these your respiratory bronchioles, they do not have goblet cell. They do not have goblet cell. Why they don't have goblet cell? Because they already have very few cilia. So if the goblet cell was there, we know that the cilia is not there to support the mucus to move away. So that will become a problem for the health, and then it can become infected as well. Mucus that is not moving is swept away, tends to get colonized by pathogen. This is the basic concept. You need to keep this in mind, and you probably can just relate it here in this question as well. Photomicrograph section through a bronchiole, you can see which is surrounded by the alveoli. You can, I guess, very clearly see these are the alveoli. This is the ring of the smooth muscles, and this folded structure is your bronchiole. There are structural differences between epithelium of bronchiole and an epithelium of an alveoli. Describe the differences in the epithelium of bronchiole and the epithelium of alveoli. Alveoli, we know the cells of the bronchioles are wider and elongated. We call these as the columnar epithelium. You need to learn the term columnar epithelium or ciliated lining as well. Whereas the cells of the alveoli are squamous epithelial cells. Alveoli also have the cells that can secrete surfactant, whereas the bronchioles have mucus producing cells. Mucus producing cells are absent in the alveoli. So this is what you have to keep in mind. So if we go to the bronchioles, this is what the bronchioles are. So these cells, this is structural lining here, which I have mentioned. This is ciliated epithelium folded. This the shape of these cells is columnar. The cells are of column shape. Column shape means the cells are elongated. That's why we are using the term of columnar epithelium, or the elongated cells, which actually are elongated, where the squamous cells are not elongated cells. And tissue X is shown in figure 4.1, located in the wall of the bronchiole. Name the tissue X and the outline the function of tissue X in the bronchiole. If you come back, tissue X. So this tissue X here, they are asking you the detail of this tissue X. So what is tissue X doing? This tissue X actually is telling you that it is smooth muscle. We have just already discussed this video. It surrounds the bronchiole. It can contract and relax. This allows the diameter of the bronchiole to get adjusted according to the requirement of the body. It can constrict or dilate. The amount of airflow can be controlled accordingly into the alveoli. This other question that I've taken, this is from May June 2022, variant 23, and this question deals with the trachea. The gestation system branch into two airways, each of which enters the lung. Then the airways is the bronch that branch from the trachea to enter the lungs. We know from trachea, bronchi or bronchus go into each lung, something very simple. The lower part of the trachea receive more blood from the arteries that branch from the aorta. Because if they are branching from the aorta, it means oxygenated blood is being delivered directly to that part of the body. So these must be the vessels that bring the blood, oxygenated blood to this tissue. Different arteries carry blood from the heart to the alveoli of the lungs. We know alveoli of the lungs receive deoxygenated blood, which is rich in carbon dioxide and having low oxygen, because it's coming from the heart, from your pulmonary circulation. So you need to just link that. State the difference between the arteries supplying the lower part of the trachea and the arteries that supply blood to the alveoli of the lungs. So the trachea is receiving oxygenated blood from the heart. The blood will have a lower carbon dioxide concentration. Arteries that supply to the alveoli are arising from pulmonary artery. These carry deoxygenated blood, having less oxygen and more carbon dioxide. Figure 1.1 is the photomicrograph section through a trachea. You can see these elongated cells. These are the elongated cells which are having cilia, and you can see a goblet cell as well. This is the goblet cell present, and the goblet cell secretes mucus, already covered. So this T structure, this is the ciliated epithelium, and you can see the cilia. It's present. It's facing towards the lumen, and just the goblet cell, as already discussed, is present together in the same lining of the ciliated epithelium. But below the, if you go just below it, this is the lumen of the trachea. Above it, if you just go below it, this structure shown to you, these are the mucus glands. It's already labeled that it's a mucus gland. A mucus gland will have a, you can say, a regular diameter, or somewhere a oval diameter, sometime a circular diameter, and it will have these thick broad cells around it. A mucus gland will always have a duct within the gland. So there is a duct present inside the gland, through which the mucus will enter into this, and the gland will allow the mucus to move out. And they are asking you structure X. A structure X, if you look closely, structure X is not a mucus gland. Structure X is not part of this lining. It is present somewhere below. And if you look, it's having a lumen as well. And the lining of the cells is pretty thin. So these are pretty thin cells surrounding a structure. And there is something present inside it which resembles a red blood cell, which actually is a red blood cell. So this structure is a blood vessel. So this is how you identify a blood vessel. Figure M1.1 show other tissues in trachea T. Describe the structural features in the tissue T visible. So you need to just describe what already I've mentioned. So all these points can be covered. Identify structure X, it's a blood vessel, and outline the features that help your identification. Why is it a blood vessel? The cells that are making the wall of structure X are endothelial cells. These are single cell joined end to end. They have a large nucleus that bulges out of the cell surface membrane into the lumen. The red blood cells can be seen inside the vessels too. So you need to just recall what the endothelial cells look like. Endothelial cells, they are joined end to end. They have a large bulging nucleus. So this large bulging nucleus is an identification feature of the blood vessel. So this blood vessel is, you can see, these are large nucleus which are bulging almost out of the cell membrane, although not out figuratively speaking though. So this is the cell here, and the width of the cell increases because of the presence of this nucleus in the cell. Again, you can see there's a large width. So wherever the nucleus is present, the cell becomes wider. So these are called the endothelial cell. I hope this video was helpful for you. That's it from my side. Thank you so much.